MashaAllah, Jazakallah, Brother Munir. So we will continue the lectures from now. And our fourth lecture of today is Why ICSA? Why have we chosen this platform, what it's all about, and what will entail in this organization? This will be presented by Dr. Fayyaz Hameed, and I would like to call him up on the stage.
نحمده ونصلي على رسوله الكريم أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إن صلاتي ونسكي ومحياي ومماتي لله رب العالمين. So I'm going to talk about why ICSA. I'm going to try and talk less and maybe more ask you what do you guys think why ICSA. That will make my job easier and yours a bit difficult. So, and unfortunately, I'm going to call more of those guys that I know already. So, some of them, they are here. So, just as a background, I mean, how many of you know what does ICSA mean? Does everybody know? Who doesn't know? Is there anybody who doesn't know what does ICSA mean? My brother, do you know what does ICSA mean? Yes. MashaAllah. House up, you don't know? So, Islamic Circle of Southern Africa. So, we are an organization. But why have we decided to make this organization? Why there is organization in life? What is the reason for organization? What do people think of? What do you think of? Sorry? MashaAllah, to give dawah. But why do we have other organizations? A lot of organizations. Do you know of any organizations well known? IMA, very good. What else? Any other organization? Sorry? Islamic Relief? Sorry? Sorry? Muslim Aid Program, very good, mashallah. So we know, lots of people know names of organizations. Why do we have an organization? Why can't everybody do its work and, what's the reason? Hamza? To bring people together to form a single goal. That's very good. So what are the advantages of having an organization compared to individually people doing things? You work together, yes? What's the reason for working? Do you know have you heard of any stories where working together is more beneficial than working alone? You know of any childhood stories or anything like that? Any story where the moral is unity, strength or something? Do you hear anything about that? Yeah, but there is lots of other stories. Have you seen? Yeah.
I can tell you a story of...
What about the youngsters? I know you're also youngster, but...
Not someone that I...
Yeah. From the girls' side, any story? Sorry? What is that? I don't know that story. Yeah, what is it? I know lots of stories where getting together is very helpful compared to living, alone. We used to, when we were small, we used to, yes, my brother. Yes, so that's an old story we all have known. But the Prophet ﷺ has told us once, this is the wide meaning of his hadith. He said that when the sheep are in a herd, sheep are always attacked by jackals. But when they are in a herd, the jackal doesn't come near them because they know they will be together and they will fight back. But if a sheep is away from the herd and running away from the herd somewhere else where it is not with the other sheep, the jackal would always attack a lone, like sheep. Yeah, wolf or jackal, yeah. So the Prophet ﷺ said that you must stay in a herd. If you stay away from a herd and try to live on your own, one of the wolves or jackals is going to come and attack you. So the meaning is in this word, what is a wolf or a jackal? Shaitan is the biggest wolf or a jackal in this word, okay? While if the Muslims, as a Muslim, we live together, we live in an organized way, we strengthen each other, we help each other, we benefit from each other's capabilities. We all are different. Some people are good at mathematics, just give you an example. Others are good at languages, others will be good at science. If they come together, they form a very useful organization. But if they're living alone on their own, they can't help other people so much. Like we see this word is an organization, is a big organization. You look at the schools, you look at the hospitals, you look at any big place, there is an organized way of doing things. Even if you study, people, you read in the books, even if you study the life of bees and ants, they have got a huge organization. We don't understand them, but they have got their queens and their kings and their pawns and all that. So what I'm saying is, organization is the way of life. You cannot live alone. And in humans, we see organization. What's the unit of organization for us? What's the unit of organization, the basic unit of organization in human life? What do you think? Sorry? Yeah, well, what I want to say is that the basic unit of organization in our life is a family. You got a mother, you got a father, you got children, maybe grandparents. So there is an organization. You can't just run around, on your own. You have to listen to your mother and your father when you are younger. They teach you how to live in your life. And as we grow up, the next generation becomes mothers and fathers. So as the families get together, then you form the suburbs. The families get together, you form suburbs, and then you form the districts. You got the provinces and the countries and the whole world, and we got the United Nations, which is the biggest organization, one of the biggest. So what I'm trying to say is that organization is an essential part of life. For us is to decide which organization we want to join as a way of life. And that actually depends on the question, if you ask, that what is our life here for? So that's the basic question, that why are we here in this world? Why do we come? Where do we go? Where do we come from? So that will determine which organization we will join, among other things, to live our life. So what do you think is the purpose of coming in this world? Why? In Surah Baqarah, in the beginning of Surah Baqarah, Allah Ta'ala says, that whatever is in this world, between the earths and the skies and whatever has been created for the humans. Whatever is there, it's for the humans. But for what is the human being created? What do you think about that? Why is human being created? Why are we here? Why Allah created man? MashaAllah, to worship Allah. And why when we were sent to this earth, you know that we were Hazrat Adam alayhi salam was in Jannah at one time, and then he was sent down to earth. And then what did Allah say broadly? Does anybody know when he sent human beings down to earth? What did he say? Yes. MashaAllah, yeah. So we are like a viceroy, or a Khalifa is like a viceroy of Allah who is in this world, who Allah has sent us in this world. And what is a viceroy supposed to do? It's like, if the President Cyril Ramaphosa is president and he's got a health minister or some other minister, what is he supposed to do? He's supposed to enforce the laws that the president wants to do. So the same way, in this world, Allah Ta'ala has sent us so that we can live our life according to His teachings. And what arrangement did He made for us to remember His teachings and His laws and His principles, and what does He want us to do? So what arrangement did He make for us? What arrangement did Allah Ta'ala made for us when He sent us here? From the girls' side, anybody? Namaz is good. But what he said was two things. I think two things which were important. One is that he sent Shaitan also with Hazrat Adam alayhi salam to the earth. And then he told us that Shaitan is your eternal enemy. So that's one thing we need to remember. And second thing what he said to us was that I'm going to send prophets to remind you again and again and again that how must you live your life. So those who will obey my prophets and listen to my prophets and will not obey Shaitan, they will go away at the end of this life. They will go to Jannah. And those who will not listen to the prophets and rather would obey Shaitan, they might go to Jahannam. So here is the kind of the two basic things that Allah told us when He sent to this world. Now we want to spend our life in this world according to what Allah told us and what His prophets told us about. But it's difficult for us to do it alone. Because you must remember, Shaitan is also working in an organization. He's got his own organization, And there are lots of facets of his organization that we see all the time in this world. So we also have to have our own organization so that we can help each other, strengthen each other, and we can benefit from each other's capacities and his specialization. So that's what I think, why we have this organization. So then what is this organization should be according to the principles and the teachings of Allah and His Prophet. So what is what you can say a manifesto or the mission statement of this organization, of ICSA? Does anybody know that? I think what you need to do is before you leave this place tonight, even for supper, please take a couple of minutes to read what is the manifesto or mission of this organization. Because only then you know. So that I can tell you now, but you must read it yourself and see what it says. So what's the mission of the organization? What's the mission? What's the manifesto of ANC? Elections is coming next month. Do you know manifesto of ANC? Sorry? Have you seen on the posters? So if you see on the posters, the manifesto is better life for all. You see that? Have you seen that? Or if you see the EFF posters, they say land for everybody, or a job in every home, you know. And DA, keep the lights on. You know, so what is our manifesto? Yeah, our manifesto is, if you read our manifesto, is seek the pleasure of Allah. So that's the manifesto. So that should be in your minds, that this is the manifesto. Whatever you do, whether you are at home, at school, in a business, seek the pleasure of Allah. I think if you remember just this thing, it will have a long-lasting effect on our lives. That whatever we want to do, we want to seek the pleasure of Allah. Although there's a couple other things in that many. How do we seek we don't know how to seek the pleasure of Allah. I mean, we know a little bit. But to put it in a more formal way, how do we seek the pleasure of Allah? What do you think? Sorry? Yeah, so that's also part of our mission statement or manifesto, that we seek the pleasure of Allah by two things, basically. Number one is to live our life according to the teachings as told by Allah to His last prophet, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And the second aspect is by serving the humanity. So these are the two things. So number one is the pleasure of Allah. That's what we want to do, nothing else, whatever we do. Okay? But I mean, now we know that we seeking the pleasure of Allah when we go for prayer, go for namaz, we fast, we pay zakat, we do. But that's only for a small part of our whole day. I mean, one hour. I mean, I see my children, they take less than 5 minutes even for namaz. So what do we do for the rest of the 23 hours in a day? You know? So what do you think? How are we going to seek the pleasure while you're sleeping? Can you seek the pleasure of Allah while you're sleeping? Any idea? How do we seek the pleasure of Allah while we're sleeping? Or seek the pleasure of Allah while we're sitting here? So Prophet ﷺ says in one of his hadiths, like the person who has performed his Isha Salah with Jama'ah for the first half of the night, if he dies, he will go to Jannah. So the first half of the night, even when he is sleeping, Allah is actually pleased with him. And then when he gets up in the morning, if he says his namaz of Fajr, the last half of the night, Allah was pleased with him. So these are the things that we need to know, that what is Allah pleased with him. In another hadith, Prophet ﷺ says that it is compulsory, for you to do sadaqah every day. Now, do we do sadaqah every day? I mean, we normally think, what is sadaqah actually? What is the general meaning of sadaqah? Anybody? Yeah, no, but what is sadaqah? I know it's to please Allah, but how do we do it? Sorry? To help the poor. That's very good. So but how would you help the poor? I mean, if you don't have money, how can you help the poor? You got no money. Sorry? What did you say? Yeah, you're loving them, okay, that's good. That you can do even if you don't have money. So exactly the same thing happened. The Prophet ﷺ said to his companions once that it's compulsory for you to do sadaqah every day. So then the guy said, but we don't have so much money that every day we can give to people. So then the Prophet ﷺ gave them a list of things, and he said, all of these things are good deeds and they are sadaqah from you. So we must look at that and see we can do lots of those things without actually spending any money. So Prophet ﷺ said, if you remove an obstacle or a stone or something from a pathway where people walk and might be tripped, that is a sadaqah. If you don't have anything and you greet somebody with a smiling face, that is a sadaqah. Don't meet somebody with an angry face, even if you are angry with him. Just smile. That is a sadaqah. And if you make salam to your fellow Muslims, that is a sadaqah. Okay? And the other things are a bit more difficult. If the two of the Muslim brothers are fighting and you can make peace between them, that is a sadaqah. And you can help somebody. If you just help somebody, say you're going on a taxi or a car and there's an old lady or old man, and you help him or her, to move into the car, to get out of the taxi, that is a sadaqah. If some old person is carrying bags on the road and he can't carry, and you help him carry his bags to his place, that is a sadaqah. So these are all things are sadaqah, and they will lead us to the pleasure of Allah. And that is also part of the serving of humanity. And if you can't do even these, the Prophet ﷺ said, even saying good thing or a virtuous thing to your brother is a sadaqah. And if you think that you are not even capable of doing that, then I can tell you the Prophet ﷺ said, keep quiet from doing bad things. Stay away from doing bad things. That will be a sadaqah from you. So these are all little things which we sometimes do. Many times we do, but we don't understand that it is a sadaqah. And it is the service of the humanity. So this is for the serving of humanity. Just a brief thing. The last thing that I want to say to you is that we want to live our life according to the teachings of Allah as He sent and propagated by the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So what are those other things apart from serving the humanity that are important in the life? You need to know the teachings of the Prophet and the teachings of Allah. And where do we know that from? From Quran. That's very good. That's the answer I'm looking for. That Allah has sent us with His Prophet this book. But how many of us, a lot of us, we not small, even boys and girls, do we know what Quran says when we read it? What does the brother say? Do we know what the Quran? So is it important for us to know what Allah says in Quran or not? Good. Would you read a book of English or something, like where you don't understand what's going on? Yeah. So what I'm saying is it is very important for us to know what the Quran says before we can be aware of the teachings of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And there are some steps we must think about it. I think if we can do one thing, like when we leave this place, we can make a promise or vow to ourselves that we'll read every day something from the Quran, and we'll read in a way that we understand it, then we achieved everything from this whole program. But every day, even if it's 2 words, even if it's 1 ayah, but if we read it the way that we know what the Quran is saying to us, only then we know, otherwise we don't know. This thing is lying here, and when Allah asks on the day of Qiyamah, I sent you a letter, did you read a letter? And we say, no, we did read it many times, but we didn't actually know what was in there. So how are we going to justify ourselves that Allah has sent us a letter and we never even try to read about it? So I think that's the most important thing. First thing, we don't have to worry. But the first thing is that we must believe that this is the letter from Allah. Fortunately, we are all Muslims, and we know that it is a big letter from Allah to tell us how must we live our lives. Okay? So we must read it, and we must understand it. But just understanding is not going to help us. if we don't start bringing it in our lives. So that is the next step. And the last thing is that if you think that something is good, you must tell it to your parents, or the parents must tell your children. You know, the parents always say, like, why must you say, when the children go to school, what do your parents say? What advices do the parents give to you guys when you go to school every day? Don't they say anything? Don't they say, like, you must look left and right before you cross the road? They don't say. Or whatever. They say, don't eat at school. Don't eat from the school tuck shop. Food is not good there and is not halal. Sorry? Money? Yes. Study hard. And they say to you every day, and you say, I know this, you know. But why do they say to you again and again? Because we tend to forget. We get busy in other things, you know, in soccer, cell phones, WhatsApp, all those things. But it's a human being. I also forget. You know, my wife asked me to bring some things, I forget. And then there is a problem at home. So the same way, the human beings are in a way like they tend to forget things. But the Quran is, if we're reading it every day, you will see that it reminds you same things again and again and again. And eventually what happens is that if you do it for a few years, you know, then we tend not to forget it. So that's what we need to do. If we know about it, only then we're going to bring it in our life. And that's the whole thing that we have discussed. That is what ICSA is all about. Nothing more, nothing less. So I think why we here is just to be aware of that we have an organization to help each other, and there are two main things to the organization, but the one manifesto is the pleasure of Allah, and the two main things are to live our life according to His teachings and to serve the humanity. Any questions about ICSA?